Welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival. I'm your host, ProbabilityOfSuccessZero, and this is episode 14 in our workshop series, where I review creations of my own as well as creations of other users. Now, in this particular episode, we're covering a quick design that I've thrown together this morning, and that's this one over here. Now, there's a particular story behind this craft. It's a small vehicle. It's not a hover vehicle. I know on first inspection you're probably thinking, oh, it's another hover bike. No, it's not. It's an actual SV. And the story behind it is the fact that I've already got a really small HV design in my current playthrough Series 3, and it's great and everything. It really helps me to maneuver around my base really quickly. It gets me from point A to B in a zip. The problem is it's limited to where it can go. If you've got like crazy terrain going on, like the mountains over there, or a couple of valleys, or even the forest over there, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to maneuver the vehicle through it. So I kind of thought, wouldn't it be great if we kind of combine the maneuverability and freedom of an SV with the kind of throwaway affordability and versatility of a hover vehicle, and I came up with this design, which is a combination of both those things. I needed something that can get me from point A to B pretty quick, and it is not in any way hindered by terrain. And I kind of based it on the idea of effectively a flying bike. And by flying bike, I mean literally a bike that flies through the air, not just hovers, flies. And this is it. And it's actually really, really good. It's very cheap to build. The most expensive material is carbon substrate, followed by copper and silicon. And the entire superstructure of the craft is just carbon substrate. The most expensive components are essentially the main devices in it, which is the RCS, the cockpit, the radar dome. I've got, I'm trying to think now, is it 5 or 6 engines? It might be 7 actually. Is it 7 engines? I need to check that. Yes, 7 engines and 1 RCS, and it's incredibly maneuverable. In fact, it's a bit too maneuverable. Initially, on first kind of testing out this design, I mean, you can see I've had to dial the sensitivity right down, and it's just absolutely nuts in terms of its maneuverability. You just throw it into corners and it just throws itself around like you won't believe. Oh, I'm just trying to, there we go, balanced it out. One of the axes actually has almost 400 degrees of rotation per second, which is obviously a bit of an issue for a craft that you're trying to handle with a small profile. It is absolutely just nuts. I was literally just twitching the mouse and the thing was flying into mountains. So I've had to dial it down a little bit on the sensitivity, but once I've got the sensitivity down, which I'll show you in a second, it handles like an absolute dream. And in terms of being able to go to places, I mean, you just power it up, straight off the ground, and off you go. And look, it's just freedom, absolute freedom. And I don't need to worry about, you know, bumping into things on the ground, because I'm not on the ground, I'm in the air. So the idea of this is, if you want something cheap and affordable that you can stick in a little nook and cranny on a capital ship or on an RSV, and you need it to you know, something you want to just go around that's cheap and affordable to explore a planet or just travel around, you know, maybe you've got 2 points of interest that you need to travel between and you don't want to get your big expensive SV out, just get this thing. I mean, it's essentially a flying bike. and it just zip around. It's incredibly maneuverable. You're not going to get hit by things if you're careful. If you do get hit by something like a missile, you're dead. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's no armor protection on this thing. You know, it does exactly what it says on the tin, and I think it looks pretty good as well. So yeah, and if we just do the drop test as well across the lake. I'm trying to bring up the hood now. Where's the... oh yeah, we've got radar on it just for easy exploration. If we just, you can see how twitchy it is. So if we just max out the acceleration, yeah, the acceleration's its lowest point. So we're at max speed. Turn off power. It flies for a little bit, quickly comes to a grinding halt, and then drops. So it is very much a vehicle that needs constant power. If you do run out of power, you're not going to glide very far. It hasn't got much of a aerodynamic profile, unfortunately, but that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to just do this. Fly around. And yes, it does do it. It does have 2 docking pads underneath it for docking to things. So, you know, bang, just slam it to the deck, and it's docked. Jump out. And yes, it is incredibly fuel efficient. So I've only got one little micro tank in here at the minute, and I've been running it all day. And I mean, look at the fuel usage. Even on full throttle, you got what? Okay, let's just absolutely just KO it. There you go, straight up. Throw it around. Hour and 45 minutes. That's not even on a full tank. So let's just try and top it up. I don't think I'll be able to. I haven't got anything small enough. Let's take all the fuel out. The fuel back in. Sealing capacity. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Alright, let's see if we can just throw some them in. Let's see if we can do that. See what capacity is like. See, we oh, is that flamethrower fuel? That one out. That one up. That'll help. Is it 98? So 98%, and just hovering 411 minutes. Hovering, going up 310 or 350, going forward 160, 144, 138, basically over 2 hours running time. And if you're conservative about it, probably squeeze out between 2.5 to 3 hours of activity out of this thing. And if you're flying it around 300 minutes, what, about 5 hours? 4 or 5 hours? Yeah, so it's a pretty good vehicle. And you can see it's still very, very twitchy and sensitive. But yeah, it's yeah, and you can potentially take this into space. It doesn't have any O2 tanks, obviously. It has no storage capacity. This is just for personal transport. You know, quick personal transport, use of a radar, quick exploration, get you from point A to point B. It can potentially go in and out of an atmosphere. I don't recommend it because you'll be relying on your suit's O2, but you know, potentially it could get you to other places. Yeah, and I think it looks pretty good as well. So let's just get that one around properly. Power off. Now, in terms of what it costs to build it, it is a tier 1 ship. Obviously, we're not going for anything fancy here. It's barely scraping 1,000 CPU usage there. In terms of its building materials, copper's 92, silicon's 74, carbon substrate is 88, iron 20, 8 minutes to produce. And yeah, it's brilliant. And if you want more maneuverability or less, you just dial this around here and you can have it as crazy as you want. And yes, it can go max speed as well, both in and out of space. So that's, I'm calling this the Space Scooter. It's a Mark 5-C. I've done a couple of iterations on the design. These little triangles here are meant to be wing mirrors, but obviously we've got nothing that can act as a reflective material in the game, so I'm to sort of just leave them there for, you know, impressions purposes, nothing more. In terms of what is where, well, we've got an RCS at the front, we've got a forward facing engine at the front as well, we've got left and right engines at the back, we've got 2 rear facing engines under this bit just here, we've also got a upwards facing engine under the dome, and that effectively, other than the downwards engine, which is right below the steering column just here in the middle. Or is it just here? No, actually I think it's under the seat actually, the downwards engine. Was it there? I don't know actually. Get it off the ground for a second. Oh yeah, so there it is, and the core's right there as well. And we've got the 2 docking feeds as well. So, you know, everything's where you need it. So, I'm pretty happy with that. I think in terms of getting that onto my single player game, well, not my single player game, my Series 3, which is actually technically is single player but on the server, but I think having this vehicle potentially in my inventory on my capital ship would be a boom, to be fair, because it would allow me to do some quick exploration without having to take things like the Mako out, and that'll probably save it from getting blown up. So for now, I think I'm going to call this episode an end. I hope you like that little reveal. I know it's a little one, but you know, I don't see many people doing air bikes or flying bikes, and you know, there is something to be said for a quick travel air vehicle. I mean, nothing, you know, don't always need to have fighters and giant fighters and, you know, giant SVs. You just don't need them. Sometimes something as small as this tiny little vehicle, you know, does the job. So for now guys, I'm going to call that episode an end, and hopefully you've enjoyed that little reveal. Let's just get a nice little screenshot of that. Yeah, and there you go. That's the Space Scooter Mark 5-C. In a bit.